The first duty of government is to protect our rights.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government in what we were tasked to do.
Obviously, we over budgeted last year. I hate to say that I was right, but I was right. So.
And I think that that's what we need to look at more, is trying to get back to what we used to be, where our churches and our families took care of each other instead of relying on the state.
And we have no way to maintain control over the spending of this program, and it will be a disaster for this state long term.
But we have a whole gamut of kids whose parents would like to do something for them and they cannot.
I take our constitutional rights, the constitutional rights of my constituents, very seriously.
This is simply about putting it out of reach of young, innocent, vulnerable children and making our libraries and schools a safe place for them to go.
And I am increasingly frustrated that we cannot stop ourselves from drinking at the public trough.
He's sounding the alarm. He's saying if we don't address these issues, we potentially might have greater problems moving forward.
Mr. Speaker, no matter how you look at it, no matter how you boil this down, there is never any time that a parent's right to govern what their children see and what they're exposed to should ever be bypassed.
If I was looking at a business and I was looking at these figures, there would be heads rolling because this is unsustainable.
We're supposed to be bottom-up government. We're supposed to be representing my citizens' ideas and your citizens' ideas, and we're supposed to be discussing them and debating them to come to a conclusion.
We need to start making Idaho first. We need to start making America first.
We need to be protecting our First Amendment rights, not inventing ways to slowly chip away at them.
The First Amendment and our freedom of religion, freedom of speech are our first liberties. They are so important. We don't have the rest without them.
All right, welcome everybody. Idaho Signal is on the air. My name is Matt Edwards. It is January 13, 2025. We are here. We're 1 week away from President Donald Trump retaking the White House officially. Incredible that we've come this far. And here in Idaho, we are 1 week in the legislative session, and this begins week 2. So we're going to cover some of the things that happened last week, get you up to speed on some things, and then also just kind of like what to look forward to. We have a special guest today. We mentioned her last week. Lily Allman will be with us here in a few minutes. And then, of course, Brian Allman as well. And we'll get into some interesting things that I think are going to be very helpful for you folks out there. But one of the things we want to start off here with is I want to get you up to speed on what occurred in the legislature. So in December, at the end of December, they had their meetings, their organization meetings. Whenever there is an election, the freshman senators, the freshman representatives, and everybody else head on down and they find out their seat assignments, they find out which committees they're on, and then they vote on leadership, on who to lead. And so because of elections, there are people who lose their seat. There are people who retire. We end up having new leadership. And of course, with elections being the way they are, sometimes you have a whole new group of people with a different vision, with different priorities, that may have a little bit more voting power. And so you start to see a little bit of a shift in the way the leadership is run. And that's, of course, it happens at the national level, and we're no different here in our state. So first, let's get you up to speed on how that went and just set the table here. We'll start with the House. The House leadership looks like this. You have Speaker of the House is Mike Moyle out of District 10. That's down Star, Middleton area. And so he's the Speaker of the House. This will be his second term, so to speak, I guess, as as the Speaker of the House. And he was again. This is the votes happen with the majority side. So all the Republicans voted for Mike Moyle, and he is now Speaker of the House for a second time. The majority leader is Representative Jason Monks out of Meridian, and Jason Monks was the majority leader last year for about half of the session. It was previously Megan Blanksma. But if you recall last year, during the legislative session, Megan Blanksma was voted out of her position as majority leader, and then they voted in Jason Monk. So he retains that position, and Megan Blanksma actually ended up losing her primary seat, so she's no longer in the House at all. So therefore, we have two other folks. So last year, the assistant majority leader was Sage Dixon out of Bonner County, District 1 up in North Idaho, and he retired his seat. So that position opened up as well. And that allowed Josh Tanner out of District 14. That's largely the Eagle area. Josh Tanner is now the assistant majority leader. And then the caucus chair is Jaron Crane. And the caucus chair last year was Representative Dustin Manwaring, who is still in office. He's out of Pocatello, District 29. And so Jaron Crane from Nampa is in the spot of caucus chair. So it's really cool is to see a few pledge signers up there, good standing pledge signers in positions of leadership. That's really cool. Over on the Democrat side, you see in blue, Ilana Rubel, she maintains her position as majority leader. And then you have Steve Birch and Todd Achilles in the other two leadership positions. So that's the House. That's what it looks like in the House. And if we switch over to the Senate, let's do that. There's a nice switch over. This was interesting because the conservatives made some good headway within the Senate side, and they were hoping that they would be able to elect someone a little less establishment type. But that wasn't the case. So Senator Kelly Anthon was voted in as president pro tem. He replaces outgoing pro tem Chuck Winder, who lost his primary seat to Senator newly sworn in Senator Josh Kaiser, and then the majority leader. That's where Kelly Anthon was last year, but the majority leader now is Lori Den Hartog, and she is out of, I believe, Meridian as well, District 22. That's the Meridian area. Mark Harris is now the assistant majority leader. He was previously the caucus chair, but now you see Senator Ben Taves, who we've had on the program many times. He's up in this area, this neck of the woods, representing Coeur d'Alene, District 4. He is now the caucus chair. So there was a little bit of a shakeup there because of lost elections, and so we will see. And then, of course, the Democrats over there, Wintro, she's the majority leader. We've been having fun with her so far. And Ruckty and Ward Engelking make up the minority side. But this is where it gets interesting, because the House has a lot more folks in it that many would consider conservative, and the Senate is still not as conservative as we would like to see in order to get the bills across the finish line. We can get rid of that graphic. We have a real problem here, and we've been highlighting it already this past week, is that there are bills that pass in the House over many years that get ignored and stuck in the Senate. So the leadership over there, from Anthon and Den Hartog and Harris and Taves, like all you folks, you're on notice. We want to see the bills that get moved across the House. Overwhelmingly, we want them heard in the Senate and given a fair debate. So let's do that, please. Let's do that. Elections have consequences, and when we need to see them happen. So especially when the elections go swimmingly well for for conservatives. All right. That being said, you're up to speed. You know who the leadership is. If you need to go find out who these people are and how to get in contact with them, you can go to our standings page and look these folks up. You can go over to the legislative website and look these folks up and get their phone number, get their email and all that stuff, and make sure you're contacting them. You guys all know this. This audience here is very active in that. Very good. Okay. A quick news that came out, which I thought we'd like to highlight, is the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance, which is run by President Greg Pruitt over there. He has been trying to get the Central Health District to remove their anti-gun decals from their window. And let's drop that banner. Yeah, there we go. You can see here. So he released a video you can watch it over on their website, but if you can see in this screenshot here, this was on the entryway of the Central District Health that said you are not allowed to carry firearms or even knives for that matter. Look at that decal in the building. And so being the Second Amendment protection, the chief authority in Idaho for that, they've been petitioning and trying to get the health district to remove that decal, and they have agreed to do so. So finally, and I don't know if that's I didn't follow this story. Rather, I don't know how prevalent this is across many of the other health districts, but go ahead and watch that video. Head over there. We applaud Mr. Pruitt and his organization for doing that. So that's great. Okay, so. We promised last week. We've been showing we've partnered up with In the Know Idaho and Lily Allman, and it's been really great to have her be a part of the program here and share some of their videos. She has a banger of a video today to kind of get you up to speed on what happened last week in the legislature. So we will cue that up and are we ready to cue that up? Are we ready to go? Yes, it says recap ready. So here's the week 1 recap from In the Know Idaho and Lily Allman. Let's watch it.
Hey everyone, it's Lily from In the Know Idaho, and Idaho's legislative session had a very interesting first week. Governor Little started out by giving his State of the State address, Idaho's achievements, accomplishments, all the reasons why you should vote for him again. His vision involves a lot of spending, which is hard to watch when our country is in the trillions in debt, not to mention the fact that every time you give government a new responsibility, the cost duplicates. He talked about wildfire management and wanting to partner with Trump to figure out like a bold new plan to manage wildfires. If the bold new plan includes burning brush and logging and sensible things like that, I'm all for it. We want common sense. We just want to use our brains. Everyone gets frustrated with the government when they do things insensibly. We're watching them. They're jumping through the hoops and they're doing all these things and we're like, guys, trees burn. It's good to be on the outside, I'll say that. I'm glad I'm not in office. Idaho is trying to take back the right to define marriage from the federal government. This is very interesting. That's what the whole overturning of Roe v. Wade was, right? Where the Supreme Court acknowledged that, oh, it's actually a state issue. It shouldn't be, it's obviously murder, but now it's a state issue, and so now states are free to call it murder. The Babylon Bee got wind of this. They posted an article saying that they were impressed that we have conservatives who aren't afraid to be conservative. And that just reminded me of how fortunate we really are in Idaho. We have some of the best legislators in the country. I'm convinced of it. Idaho is also seeking to protect the right to own chickens. Hallelujah. According to Senator Tammy Nichols, when people move to Idaho, they have 2 questions. When can I buy a gun? And when can I get some chickens? And I guess people are running into situations where they can't, like due to HOAs or just like local ordinances. But guys, we all know that chickens are very important for those of us who want to, say, break free of the matrix, get a little taste of reality. Nothing will do that for you quite like owning a chicken. So, this is very exciting stuff. I would love for Idaho to be known as a state where the right to own chickens is constitutionally enshrined. Grateful to live in Idaho, where 70% of people voted for Donald J. Trump, where common sense abounds, and where chickens are a top priority. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.
Yeah, and Lily Allman joins us now. Hey, Woo! Lily, good to see you.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, real quick, the videos content that you're doing here, are you all by yourself, or you've got a little bit of a team over there?
I'm recruiting some help as I need it right now. My brother's been helping me out. My sister helped me out. So yeah, if I need someone to hold the camera, I go and find them.
Yeah, nice. Okay, great. All right. Well, I want folks to know a little bit more about you and stuff. So I want to ask, like, what got you into politics and following this kind of stuff? I mean, what is it about and I won't ask your age, I'll be polite, but we know you're you're a young 20-something. But what is it about politics and what's going on in the world that got you engaged like this?
Mm-hmm. Well, it was really 2020 for me. So it was just when everything was going down, and it started to be where I had to understand what I believed and articulate what I believed. Like, if you were going to go to the grocery store and someone was going to fight you about wearing a mask, what are you going to say? Why are you going to say it? So that's kind of what made me start paying attention, and it's been a whole deep dive since then. So yeah, that was kind of the tipping point, but since then it's been so fun learning about American history and philosophy and conservatism. Like, what are we trying to conserve? And it's been fun to learn how to have better conversations with people. So yeah, that's kind of what keeps me interested in all this.
Yeah, that's great. And we see you here. You went to AmFest. We showed this video last week. When you, during your education now, when you are, you said like COVID sort of woke you up. You're trying to figure out what your rights mean, where do they come from, and all that stuff. What has been one of the more interesting things that you've discovered about rights or about your history or anything like that in this country?
Well, it's all interesting, but I guess the most important part is that rights are God-given, and so they're the whole point of America is that it's supposed to defend what we were born with, basically. And so once you realize that, you start looking at all these extraneous rights that people are coming up with and inventing, like the right to free healthcare or the right to food or whatever it is they're coming up with these days. But yeah, our rights are really basic, and America is actually, it's supposed to be protecting some very basic stuff. So it's fun to be able to get back to those roots because it really uncomplicates things.
Yeah, good point. So obviously, Turning Point USA is a big youth organization, and it looks like, was that your first venture out to one of those events? And how long have you been involved in at least paying attention with Turning Point? And then I want to ask you about, you know, folks your age that you meet there and their issues and stuff. But tell me a little bit about your involvement with Turning Point.
Yeah. So I went to AmFest last year. I went in 2023 and 2024. It's so fun. It's my favorite event of the year now. And as far as Turning Point goes, I did start a chapter with some friends last January, so a year ago. And that's been really fun. You know, just kind of, the Turning Point name brings people together who have similar vision for America and who are kind of united in a similar purpose. So it's been really helpful having a Turning Point chapter because people see it and they instantly recognize it. And they're like, oh, they're doing what I want to do too. So yeah, that's kind of been the extent of my Turning Point involvement.
Right. And what are the biggest issues among folks your age right now? Like, what are you guys looking at? Is it, I mean, are you worried about, you know, the crippling deficits in Social Security, or are you more worried about the border? Or, I mean, what is it? What's top of the line?
Yeah, that's a good question. I know the border is a big one because that's a really obvious hole in the bucket. Like if we can patch the border, then we can start fixing some other stuff. But people my age are really struggling to buy a house. A lot of my friends live with their parents for financial reasons because it's just not practical to go out and try to get something for yourself. So yeah, I think we're really looking forward to the Trump economy, and hopefully we'll see some improvements there. Yeah, that's kind of the big one.
Yeah. What is the perception of Trump among folks under, in the 25 and under crowd, because, or around that crowd? Because I think, like, for someone like me, I'm older, Gen X guy. Like, I grew up knowing Donald Trump as a real estate developer. He did a lot of interviews. He had Art of the Deal and all this stuff. And then he became a reality TV star. And that was kind of like, oh, of course he would do reality TV, but he was always around. He was always a celebrity. And then I know that, nowadays it's like there are some people that may be 15 years old that only know him as a president. So it's kind of bizarre to kind of see that. So where do you fall in line, and what is the perception of folks when they look at Donald Trump?
Yeah, I definitely never knew his name until he ran for president for back in 2016.
Wow.
So yeah, I guess I just see him as someone who's willing to go against the status quo. And yeah, some people think he's old. Some people are like, oh, I wish we had Vivek Ramaswamy so that we could get some young blood in there. But I don't think that way. I think it's great to have old guys in office because they've already seen it all. I think that wisdom's really important. So yeah, people love Trump, especially because he'll say what we're thinking. He doesn't have the air of a typical politician who kind of tries to gloss things over and redirect your attention. He's pretty upfront, and he really cares about people too. He was actually at AmFest, so he took the stage on the last day there, and he invited several people up on stage with him, and he would just like step back and give them the mic, and you could just tell that he was treating people with a lot of care, which was just really amazing to see. So I think we're very fortunate to have him.
Yeah, that's great. So now before we let you go, when you compare Trump and what you like about him, what do you see in Idaho? Do you see anybody like him? Do we need that here in state politics? What do you think of our politicians in Idaho?
I think we have an interesting mix. We have a lot, like I just said in my video, we have a lot of amazing legislators. And what's interesting about them is that they tend to be people who come from nowhere. Like they just kind of stepped up because they saw a need, and so they want to fill the need. So people like Scott Herndon or Heather Scott, or we have a lot of great people up north. But yeah, I think overall we can only benefit from more grassroots type leadership, because then you're not disconnected from the people, and you actually are accomplishing what the people want, and you're more connected to reality too. It's not like you're up here in the political world and you're like, oh, I think the people want me to do this, and they would probably like some more programs or whatever. Yeah, I think it's great when you can get someone in office who doesn't forget where they came from.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, when the grassroots steps up, and whether they get into the political arena or they start doing what you're doing, which is helping educate people in a fun way, and connecting younger folks into the political world and keeping them informed. It's really important, especially with like you said. I mean, people are trying to buy a house, or trying to afford things, or trying to get out, live their American dream on their own, and it's really hard right now to do that. So, all right, well, what can we expect from you in the coming weeks? What sort of projects are you working on?
Oh boy, I can't say anything for certain, but I can tell you that I'm going to be working hard to make some more fun stuff. I have a whole list of ideas. We're just going to have to see which ones win out. So
yeah,
no promises, but just keep checking back, because I'm sure it'll be fun, whatever I end up doing.
Yeah, for sure. And this is the fun time right now because the legislature just got started. There's really not much for us to do except sit here and pay attention and be like, we're going to be watching, and then really get rolling in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, we expect a lot of cool, fun stuff from you, Lily. Thank you so much for coming on today, and I'll let you get back to it. Oh, awesome. Where can people follow you? At the Know, in the Know Idaho. Yeah, where are you most prevalent? Where do you put all your stuff?
Yeah, so I mostly post on Instagram. That's where we've got the biggest kind of community over there. But we're on Facebook, we're on X, we're on YouTube. So yeah, whatever works for people. But Instagram's where you're going to see most of the stuff.
Okay, great. All right. Well, thanks, Lily. We'll check back in with you. We'll look forward to the next video. All right. Very good. All right, folks. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. We'll get Brian Allman in here at some point and keep you posted on what happened. There was a couple things that happened in committee over on Friday and then what to expect later today. So we'll get you up to speed on that. We're just getting going, folks. We'll be right back.
And that's exactly what happened. You want to pull the tape? You can pull the tape because we now got video.
Idaho is the dirt under your fingernails after an honest day's work. Idaho is the hug around your neck when your daughter spells her first word. Idaho is the written word of the law, steadfast and impartial, guarding liberty for all. Idaho is the family rifle passed down, a legacy of protection and the right to stand firm. Idaho is the echo of your own voice, unshaken and free, standing tall among a world silenced. Idaho is the home that's built to weather storms, not empty wallets. Idaho is the quiet trust between a patient and healer, unbroken and sacred. Idaho is the hymn carried by the Spirit, gathering neighbors together in faith and purpose. Idaho is the laughter around a campfire, a family's bond growing stronger with every word. Idaho is the pioneer's will, firm and clear. We govern ourselves, free and unbound. Idaho is what America was. Let's keep it that way. Ask your legislator to sign the Citizens Alliance of Idaho pledge to preserve our shared values. We ride together.
Yeah, folks, remember you can ask your legislator to sign the pledge if they haven't already. I know our website right now still lists the 2024 legislative list. We are updating that now. It just takes some of the technical things behind the scenes to get everything all matching and make sure that all the information is correct. So the team is working on that, and we'll have that updated soon. It'll be okay though, because there's no bills to score yet, really. So we won't get there until the end of the legislative session. But you will know who is a signer and who has committed to that. So be in touch with that. All right, there it is. There's the pledge. There's also Brian Allman. There he is. Just boom, right in. Hey, Brian, good to see you. I wanted to kind of cover a couple things with you today. We know that you had mentioned earlier, or we had mentioned earlier, that we thought that maybe House Concurrent Resolution 2 would maybe voted on today, but what's the status of that? Where are we on that?
Well, while I was showing my homeschool pod a movie about World War II, I tuned in for a few minutes, and they moved it at least one legislative day. So that means they're not ready to debate it yet. It could come up tomorrow. They could hold it. I would expect it sometime this week.
Yeah. Okay. And just to remind everybody, that is the bill that would commemorate the BSU women's volleyball team. Barbara Ehart presented the bill last week in committee, and she has there she is. She presented that. Riley Gaines was in the mix as well, as she helped present that. And so we'll keep tabs on that. It was really good. You know what's really cool though, Brian, too, is that she revealed, we had her on the show on that day, and she revealed that she was the one that instigated or sort of set in motion the boycott She spoke with the women's volleyball team there, or the school, somebody behind the scenes, and they all started talking. Next thing you know, the women's volleyball team does it, and then a few other colleges do it, and it was just set in motion this national story. So she really is a fighter. She really is a force for great when it comes to this issue.
The other day that I don't think there's anyone in Idaho for sure, but maybe even in the United States, who's done more to protect women's sports than Representative Ehart. And in doing what she did, creating a situation where the BSU women's volleyball team could take a stand, the implicit agreement there, I think, is that in doing so, they because this thing's been going on for a long time, several years now, where you have male athletes playing in women's sports, because they identify as female. It's causing problems. But it's one thing for us on the outside to say, hey, this is a bad idea, they should stop it. It's another for the females themselves to actually stand up and say, no, we're not going to take this. We're not going to take part in this absurd farce. And in doing so, we need to then respond by giving them the right thing to do. We will support you. And so I'm pleased to see Representative Ehart, not only starting it, but also then, doing the other end by bringing.
Yeah, that's absolutely very good. Okay, so later today, we know in the Senate, in one of the Senate committees, it's probably whatever the equivalent.
Judiciary.
Yeah, Judiciary and Rules. Yeah, Senator Brian Lenny is bringing back his anti-SLAPP legislation that barely, I guess it barely failed, if you will, in the Senate last year. He hopes it'll get some movement this year. But let's recap, everybody. What is anti-SLAPP? SLAPP. What does that stand for? If you can recall, and what is this? Yeah, what is this?
SLAPP, SLAPP, strategic lawsuit against public participation. I think that's right. The idea in your mind, or you have a certain opinion, and somebody finds some way to file a lawsuit against you. Let's say you say something on Twitter about some political event, defamation. That's a lie. I'm going to sue you. Without an anti-SLAPP statute, that lawsuit can go on for years before finally being dismissed. We have free speech. But those years take away your time, your energy. It puts stress on you and your family. It could take money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, becomes the punishment. So an anti-SLAPP statute is something that a lot of other states have, and it basically just gives the judge a tool to look at the case on day one and say, hey, is this actually just a frivolous lawsuit to try and shut someone up for political purposes? It's a common sense thing. People on all think it's a great idea. California, a very blue state, has an anti-SLAPP statute. It doesn't mean that you're not allowed to sue someone for real defamation. Those can still go through. It just gives, like I said, the judge a tool at the beginning to check and see whether or not this is actually just a frivolous lawsuit. And last year, it passed the committee, got to the Senate floor, and then it was killed. And he believes, and I agree with him, that it was totally personal. There were some people didn't like him and didn't want him to come away with a victory, and so they killed his bill. It's the sort of petty politics that I really, but unfortunately it's part of the reality of the system. So he's going to introduce the RS this afternoon. I'm going to try and be there by the time he does it, and hopefully it goes through the process this time.
Yeah, I expect the same, especially because I think some of the folks that were in that petty mode may no longer be in office, but there still might be a few lingering. But we'll see what happens. Again, new leadership, new set of folks at the top who can put the kibosh on things and can also put their weight behind stuff, especially when they want some good PR, hopefully. And like you said, this is legislation that we should have. It's not a partisan issue it's just about. It's absolutely not a partisan issue. It's something that we should definitely have. So very good. Now, you bring up, we're talking about the judges here, judges' discretion and all this, and giving them the tool to make a good call right up in the beginning. And it makes one think about judges in particular, and how one of the great mysteries that voters have when they show up on election day in various elections throughout their lives is they see a list on the ballot of judges, and they're like, I have no idea what to do. And you'll hear from many different people, different theories, like never vote for any of them, or leave it all blank, or only vote for X or Y, or whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, we want to be informed, and we want to know that we're electing good judges, or we're removing bad judges, or the like. And it's very hard to keep track of what these judges are doing and what to even, pardon the pun, judge them by. So you unveiled something last year. I think you were working with Senator Tammy Nichols on this. This might be revolutionary. Can you share with everybody what it is and the details?
Sure. So, reached out to me around the time of the election and wanted to do something about getting information out to educate voters about the judicial system. And both of us agreed that that's the number one issue, or the number one question we always hear in the lead up to an election. What about judges? And honestly, it's hard to know, because like you said, there's a whole list of them. Here in Ada County, there were, I don't know, 12, 15, 20 magistrate judges on our names that we don't know. And it's not even competitive races. It's just saying, shall we retain this magistrate? Shall we retain this magistrate? And of course, everyone's going to vote yes if they bother. But I think all of them passed with about 2/3 of the vote, because you have a third who will just vote against them on principle. So we're putting together something called the Idaho Bench Project, and you can see the project, I think it's .com. I should have checked that before. But it's going to be a 501c3, so a nonprofit educational sides in any political issue. It's just going to go out there and collect as much information as possible and put it all in one spot. So you can go there and you can find out everything from Supreme Court is, 5 justices who they decide the most important things statewide. But then you have the appellate court below that, and then you have different districts throughout the state where they have judges. And then underneath those districts are the county courts, and the county courts then have the magistrates that, and there's various ways that those people are get into their positions. A couple of years ago, there was a contested election for Supreme Court justice, and they campaigned, but that's very rare. What often happens is that a judge will retire, and so they'll be appointed then by the governor. But the governor's constrained in how he can. Who he can appoint. It has to be someone who's been given to him on a list by the Judicial Council, which is associated with Idaho State Bar. So, yeah, there it is. There's the website. So the system has some problems, and hopefully the legislature, once the person's appointed, then they usually run unopposed. So you don't really have a say in who our judges are. So we're putting this together. It's still in its early stages, but we're going to have a system where you can go in and see who are your judges. Obviously, every Idahoan, we have the Supreme Court, but then your court judges depend on which district you're in, and your county judges depend on which county you're in. So we're going to try and put little profiles for every single one of them and get as much of their history as possible. How have they passed? And again, it's a 501c3, so we're not going to tell you what to think, but we'll give you that information. And eventually, Senator Nichols has an idea of sending out not explicitly political, but just what's your philosophy? What's your background? What do you think about things? And try and include that. I don't know if so. We're working on setting up the nonprofit status, the 501c3 status, putting together a board of directors, and then we'll be able to take donations. We're not going to get rich or anything. It's basically to pay our web designer and maintain the website, and maybe send out some mailers and host some community events.
Yeah, this is great, Brian. Your connection's a little blurry here. The audio portion of it. That being said, though, this is fantastic. I mean, I can't tell you how. Again, like the way we set this part up here, so many people ask about this, and they feel so lost. And then when you go through stuff like COVID, and you have judges making decisions here and there, and just due process laws in general, I know this is going to be a huge asset once it's up and running. And so hopefully when you get the donation portal up, you'll have people donating to this to get it really singing along here. But this is a much needed thing across the entire country. And I hope you guys start, having it start here in Idaho is great because we get to be affected by it first. But yeah, the IdahoBenchProject.com. Fantastic. I mean, you guys, we got to have some, if you're out there watching right now, give us a comment. Is this something that you wanted to see? Is this something that you feel you're going to need? I know I am. I'm already excited about it, and there's not even a judge on there yet. So at least in the district court part, but this is very good. This is very good, Brian. I commend you. I commend you for it. All right. What is, if we got your connection a little bit better, maybe you can just kind of, what do you expect to see this week? What are you looking forward to? And what can we, where should our signal be pointing?
Oh, well, there's things that'll be coming up in all the state affairs, June rules. We're still waiting for Representative Foreman and Senator Den Hartog's school choice bill to see how that plays out. Nailing down some negotiations between the governor's office and the legislative leadership. Still waiting for the tax cut bills, and there's a whole bunch more. I think Representative Racer is going to have a bill to make it so illegal aliens can't get any form of welfare. Tax tried that last year and it failed, which is absurd. There's also Representative Skog has presented a bill to create a mandatory minimum fine, and that's going to obviously create some debate as well. So there's all sorts of stuff on the docket, and of course we'll keep bringing everything that comes up.
Yeah, great. Vanna here says, yes, very important. It's really hard to make informed decisions without good information. And she's referring to the judges stuff. So yeah, keep that stuff coming. All right, Brian, it's good to see you, my friend. We'll watch your feed on X and everywhere else about what happens with that anti-SLAPP presentation. It's just an RS hearing today, right?
Correct. It's just they're just going to try and get the bill printed.
Yeah. Okay. And then we'll get to read it again. And I don't expect much differences, but where can people follow you and keep tabs?
At Gem State Brian on Twitter, where I'll be live tweeting everything I can see. And then Gem, where I write, and I've got the Idaho Insider and the session snapshot to update you on bills and everything I can.
Okay, great. Yeah, that was gemstatechronicle.com in case it cut out for you like it did for me. There it is. All right, Brian, good to see you, my friend. We will check back in with you again. Take care. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with a little bit more.
Coming from within the system, which the process in the system is broken.
Idaho lawmakers swear an oath to support the Idaho and U.S. constitutions. But how's that working out for you? Because not all Idaho lawmakers share the same values. That's where the Citizens Alliance of Idaho pledge comes in. 10 statements inspired by those two founding documents that are designed to preserve our shared values. Values such as education freedom, safeguarding free speech, defending our protected right to self-defense, and being responsible stewards of taxpayer dollars. When a lawmaker signs the pledge, they are performing an act of political courage, accepting the challenge to be a champion for our values, and serving with political integrity. To find out if your lawmaker signed the pledge, visit idahopledge.com. Paid for by Citizens Alliance of Idaho. We ride together.
Whoops. All right, folks, it's a Monday. It's January 13. And so things, again, this is what happens with the legislature all the time. It's a slow roll. There's a lot of presentations in committees, a lot of organization meetings going on. People still jockeying around which bill's going to go here, which bill's going to go there. And so we'll keep tabs on it. We'll have some more guests this week to kind of give us a preview of what to expect from their neck of the woods and what's important to them. It was interesting to hear some of that come down the line. But around the state, we always want to make sure we're keeping tabs around the state as well. And so please send us a message. Let us know what's going on in your neck of the woods. Handyman there says the judge bench info is a great idea. Glad you like that, Handyman. Man, what is going on with my my tongue today? It was such a great idea. The judge thing. I mean, we need that, and we needed somebody to step up, and so they're stepping up. What was I talking about? Handyman got me distracted. What's going on around the state? So we want to hear from you folks. So you see at the bottom, we've been scrolling an email address, signal@citizensallianceidaho.org. Give us a message. Tell us what's going on, or you can leave a voicemail at that phone number. We'll get that up there, 208-402-4915. Leave us a message. We'll play it on the air. What I'd love to do is collect a lot of good rants from you and then send them in a special package to legislators. So if there's an issue that you are passionate about, please give us a call, give us a rant, and we'll send it along. Courtesy of Idaho Signal and Citizens Alliance of Idaho. Up here in Kootenai County this morning, just about an hour ago, there was a swearing in of the new commissioners. They had a little, they have the color guard. They have that's Jennifer Locke administering the county clerk administering the oath of office to a returning commissioner. She won her reelection, Leslie Duncan, and that's up here in Kootenai County. And I believe also, is that Mark Eberlein? Is he the new commissioner there? I believe so. So he's taking his seat on the dais. And then Sheriff Bob Norris won his reelection for sheriff of Kootenai County. And it looks like Bruce Matari is administering the oath of office there to him. So anyway, that's cool to see across the state, folks, across the state. We're always keeping tabs of what's happening. So please, you keep us informed of what's going on. People send us that kind of information. So I live in Kootenai County. Most of our team is in Kootenai County. So that's why we knew what was going on today in Kootenai County, but we can't keep tabs on everything. So you got to let us know. We're here to amplify your signal. All right, folks, tomorrow, we have a great guest coming up this week. She's out of Moscow and she wrote a book. She works at a college down there, and she wrote this fantastic book on being civically engaged and how it's your duty, and it's a duty of all of us, but especially a specific demographic of folks. It's your duty to be engaged civically. And she wrote an entire book on this. It's a fantastic book. It's like a how-to. It's not like a novel. It's or a nonfiction book. It's like a how-to. It's a manual. It's something that you can keep with you and refer to and use to stay civically engaged. And so we're going to have her on to talk about that. She's a local, like I said, she's local. She's down in Moscow. And so we'll have her on to talk about that, as well as some other things that I don't have the list in front of me, but we're all on pins and needles trying to find out who's going to be on the signal next. I thank you for joining us, folks. Head over to idahosignal.com. You can help to contribute to the program, keep us on the air, keep amplifying our message is best we can. And then, of course, yes, lifecda.com. Use the promo code SIGNAL. You get 10% off your online order. Mineral Ridge, that's my favorite. Although my wife came home with the other one, the darker, the one in the black bag, the Beaumont blend. So we're going to give that one a shot. But if you are somewhere else outside of the greater CDA area, head on down to lifecda.com. Use the promo code SIGNAL and get 10% off your online order for some great coffee. This is a great way to support a local business up here in Coeur d'Alene. All right, folks, thank you for joining us. We will be back tomorrow, same time, same channel, or different one, whichever one you want to choose. We thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
This bill, I think, it puts a stake in the ground that says we have a sovereign right to protect what's ours.